In this lesson, I want to talk about modeling division of fractions using a number line. And this concept is actually pretty easy if you understand how to break your number line up and how to assign numbers to your number line. All right, so let's look at what this means, the type of problems that we'll be working with in this lesson. So when I talk about division of fractions, I'm looking at something like this. I could have a unit fraction, 1/3, divided by another unit fraction, 1/2. I could have a unit fraction, let's say 1/3, divided by a whole number, 4. Now keep in mind, we can think of 4 as a fraction as 4/1. I could have it in the other order. I could actually have a whole number, 4, or 4/1, divided by a unit fraction. Let's say 1/5. I could have a mixed number, 2.5, divided by a unit fraction. I could actually have a mixed number divided by another mixed number. But once we set this problem up, once we know how to set these problems up, it's actually pretty easy. Now, keep in mind, in every one of these problems, what we're doing, we have this first fraction. This fraction is our dividend. And the second fraction is our divisor. And in every one of these problems, we're trying to take our divisor and put it into our dividend. How many times will our divisor go into our dividend? So in this problem, the dividend is 1/3. The divisor is 4. We're going to see how many times we can take 4 and put it into 1/3. Our dividend here is 4. In this one, 2.5 is our dividend. And in this one, 2.5 is our dividend. And then we have our divisor in each one of them. So the divisor goes into the dividend. All right, so let's talk about how we're going to break these problems up. Now, let's start with a simple example. Let's suppose I want to divide, and I'm going to take a unit fraction. Let's take the unit fraction 1/3, and let's divide it by the whole number 4. Now let's look at this 4 is 4/1. We always want to look at it as a fraction. The first thing we need to know how to do is how long to make our number line. Well, this is how we determine how long to make the number line. Look at both of your fractions. Here we have a dividend of 1/3. And here we have a divisor of 4. 4 is the largest number that we have here. And since this 4 is a whole number, a good way to set your problem up is to make your number line as long as the longest fraction that you have. Well, this 4/1, this 4 is the whole number, so I'm going to make my number line 4 units long. But I'm also going to have to take that number line that's 4 units long, and I'm going to have to split each one of the units up into smaller sections. If you look at the denominators of your fractions, here we have a 3, and here we have a 1. If you take your denominators and multiply them together, 3 times 1 is equal to 3. So that tells me how many segments I need to break each unit up into. All right, so first, look at the largest fraction that you have. Look at the largest fraction and make your number line as long as the largest fraction you have. If that fraction happens to be a mixed number like 2.5, we're going to make our number line as long as the next whole number that's larger than 2.5. So if we have a fraction 2.5, we make our number line 3 units long. If I have a fraction, a mixed number that's 4 1/3, I want to make my number line 5 units long. All right, so that's the first thing we need to do. Look at the largest fraction and make the number line as long as that largest fraction. In this case, since it's a whole number, we only have to worry about making it 4 units long. Now, the next thing we're going to do is multiply your denominators multiply your denominators. And then what we want to do is divide each unit into the number of sections that's equal to the product of those denominators. Okay? All right, first, let's look at this one more time. We're going to look at the largest fraction that we have, and we're going to make a number line that's as long as that largest fraction. Then we're going to multiply our denominators, and then we're going to take each unit of that number line and we're going to break it up into whatever number we get when we multiply those denominators. So in this problem, 1/3 divided by 4, or 4/1, since 4 is our largest number, we want a number line that's 4 units long, and we want each unit to be broken up into 3 sections. So we're going to have something that looks like this. We start at 0. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes we may have to extend it out just a little bit, but that's okay, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But if we look at each one of these units, notice that they're broken up into 3 equal segments. So that's the first thing we need to do. Now, before I actually go through the model Let's look at another example to make sure we understand this completely. If I wanted 1/5 divided by 1, well, let's see. Let's say 1/5 divided by 2. One-fifth divided by 2. We look at this. Here we have the whole number 2, or 2/1. That's our divisor. Since that's our largest number, we need a number line that's 2 units long. But if I multiply those denominators, that 5 times 1, I get 5. So I need a line segment 2 units long, where each section is broken into 5 parts. For each unit. So here we start at 0, and we have 1, 2. Oops, that last one, I cut it off just a little bit short. Make that a little bit longer. All right, so notice each one of those units is 5 segments long. So that's the very first thing we need to be able to do. Now, the second thing we need to be able to do is determine where each of these numbers are located on our number line. Well, it's pretty clear to see 2 is here, so that's our divisor. And 1/5, if we look at this unit of 1 that's broken into 5 equal parts, then one of those 5 parts is 1/5. All right, let's look at another example. We're going to get to the completion of the model in just a second, but it's very important that you know how to draw your line and how to label your numbers on your number line. And once you have that, everything else is pretty simple. Let's suppose I wanted to divide 1/3 by 1/5. Now, notice I have 2 unit fractions. Now remember, a unit fraction is something that's smaller than 1. So if I look at this 1/3, the next whole number that's larger than 1/3 is the number 1. If I look at the 1/5, the next whole number that's larger than 1/5 is the number 1. So really, if I'm dividing a unit fraction by a unit fraction, I only need a number line that's 1 unit long. But if we look at those denominators, 3 times 5, that's going to give me 15. So I need one section. I need to go from 0 to 1 on my number line because, as I mentioned, we're looking at the whole number next largest whole number that's larger than our largest fraction. So in this case, it really doesn't matter which one we look at. Our number line needs to be 1 unit long, but it needs to be broken into 15 sections. So we start at 0. We have 15 sections, but remember, this last number on the end is the number 1. So we have this number line, 1 unit long, broken into 15 sections. Now, where are these numbers located on our number line? Keep in mind, we said this first number is our dividend, and the second number is our divisor. Well, if I have 15 sections and I want to break those sections up into thirds, then each section is going to have 5 pieces. So if I look at this, if I take these 15 units, this number line, and break it up into 3 equal parts, that's what it's going to look like. So here is my 1/3. If I wanted to take that number line and break it up into fifths, I want to break it up into 5 equal pieces, it's going to look something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's my 5th section. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. So this is 1/5. An easy way to look at this without having to count like this is if you're trying to divide this number line, notice that 1/3, to get from 0 to 1/3, you have to have 5 sections to get to 1/3. Notice the denominator of the divisor is a 5. If I want to look at 1/5 of my number line, notice that to get to 1/5, 1/5 has 3 sections. So a pretty easy way to look at it, if you want to know where 1/5 is located, count over from 0, 3 units. If you want to know where 1/3 is, count over 5 units. So you just look at the opposite denominator. So that's kind of a quick way of looking at that. All right, let's look at another example, and then we're going to break this thing up finally to look at the complete model. Let's look at 1/6 divided by 1/2. 1/6 is a fraction that's less than 1, and 1/2 is a fraction that's less than 1. So the next whole number that's larger than each one of those is 1. So once again, my number line needs to be 1 unit long. Anytime you're dividing a unit fraction by another unit fraction, it only needs to be 1 unit long. But how many parts does it need to be broken into? We look at our 6 times 2. It's 12. So I need a number line, 1 unit long, that's broken into 12 pieces. Start at 0. And we end at 1. And this thing is broken up into 12 pieces. Where is my dividend located? Well, since that's 1/6, all I have to do is look at the denominator of my divisor, which is a 2, and I know I'm going to have 2 units to make 1/6 of this number line. So my 1/6 is here. And what about 1/2? If I want to put 1/2 on my number line, the denominator of the other fraction is a 6. So my 1/2, I'm going to have to count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So there's my 1/2. Okay. So once we have this, what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can model this division problem. This is all we need to do. What we're going to do, we're going to take an oval, and we're going to draw an oval, and we're going to make that oval the length of our divisor, starting at 0. So we go all the way over the length of our divisor. Now, what I want to do from here is I want to look at my dividend. My dividend is here. I'm going to shade everything to the left of my dividend. So what I'm trying to do is take this 1/2 and put it into the 1/6. How many times will 1/2 go into 1/6? But notice here, if I look at this oval, how much of this oval is shaded? This oval is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. But there are only 2 of those 6 pieces that are shaded. So 2/6, and I could actually reduce that. 2/6 is 1/3. 2/6 of that oval is what's shaded. So that must mean the product, the quotient of 1/6 and 1/2 should equal 1/3. Well, let's do it mathematically. What's our rule? We take that second fraction and we flip it over. That's called the reciprocal. And then we rewrite it as a multiplication problem. So that's 1/6 times 2/1. That's going to give us 2/6, which is 1/3. Right? So what we need to do, our oval is always the size of our divisor. And we need to make those ovals until we can touch or enclose our dividend. Now, sometimes we may have more ovals than one. All right, let's look at this. Let's take this same problem and let's switch it around. Let's put the 1/2 as our dividend, and let's make our 1/6 the divisor, and let's see what happens. So let's take 1/2 and divide it by 1/6. So once again, I can use the same number line. I know it needs to be 1 unit long, and it needs to be broken up into 12 equal segments. So we start at 0. And we end at 1. Now let's mark these on our number line. Our 1/2 is 6 units over. And our 1/6 is 2 units over. Now let's make ovals that are the size of our divisor. All right, that's one oval. But notice I haven't reached my dividend yet. I'm going to have to keep doing this until I reach my dividend. So here's another oval. And here's another oval. I finally made it over to my dividend. Now, let's shade everything to the left of our dividend. That's 1 oval. That's 2 ovals. That's 3 ovals. So, if I have 3 ovals, 3 full ovals shaded, that must mean that if I take 1/2 and divide it by 1/6, I get 3. Well, let's do it mathematically to see what happens. 1/2 times, we take the second fraction, flip it over, 6/1. That's 6/2. But when we simplify 6/2, 6 divided by 2, that's 3. So that verifies it. Let's look at another example. Let's do 1/4 divided by 1/5. 1/4 divided by 1/5. If we look at this, we need a number line that's 1 unit long, because 1/4 is a fraction that's less than 1, and 1/5 is a fraction that's less than 1. And the whole number, the next whole number that's larger than both of those fractions is 1. But how many sections does that number line need to be broken into? It needs to be broken into 4 times 5, 20 pieces. We start at 0. And we end at 1. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 20 segments. Where is 1/4 on our number line? Our 1/4, we count over 5 units. So here is our 1/4. If you split this number line up into segments that are 5 pieces long, you will have 4 of those pieces. Where's 1/5? Now, 1/5 is here. If you wanted to split this number line up into 5 equal pieces, then each segment would have 4, each piece would have 4 units. Now, remember, I make my oval the size of my divisor. So here's an oval. Right? That oval is 4 units long. Now I need another oval that's 4 units long, the same size. I'm sorry, 5 units long. No, I'm sorry, that's right. 1/5. I need to make my oval the size of my divisor. So I go over to 1/5. Now I need to make another oval that's the same size. So I need to go over that far. I need to make sure that I have drawn complete ovals all the way across until I have reached or encircled or enclosed my dividend. So let's look at this. There's my dividend. I'm going to shade everything to the left of my dividend. Okay. So, what did I end up shading? I shaded 1 full oval. And notice the second oval is broken up into 4 pieces. And 1 of those 4 pieces is shaded. So if that's the case, that must mean that 1/4 divided by 1/5 is equal to 1 and 1/4. Well, let's show that mathematically to verify it. That's 1/4 times, flip that over, 5/1, which is 5/4. And 5/4 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. We have a remainder of 1, so that's 1 and 1/4. So that verifies it. Let's look at this with a unit fraction and a whole number. So this is the process. If you understand the process, if you understand how to break your number line up, and you understand how to draw your ovals, then it's pretty straightforward. Let's look at 1/3 divided by the whole number 2. Now, remember, I want to look at that whole number as a fraction, 2/1. So, since we have the whole number 2, I know that, and that's my largest of those 2 numbers, I know that my number line needs to be 2 units long. And how many pieces does it need to be broken up into? It needs to be broken up into 3 times 1. Okay, 3 pieces. For each unit. So my number line should look something like this. We start at 0. There's 1, and there's my 2. And now I need to take each unit and it's split up into 3 equal segments. Alright, so here is my divisor. My divisor is 2. And where is my dividend? My dividend, if I look at this first unit, my dividend is 1/3 of the way. Alright, so this is 1/3 of that first unit. We're going to do exactly the same thing that we did with the other problems. I need to draw an oval. That's the size of my divisor. Now I need to look at my dividend. Here is my dividend. I'm going to shade everything to the left of my dividend. Now let's look at what happened here. The 2 is much bigger than the 1/3. So it makes sense that we can't squeeze that whole 2 into that 1/3. We could only get part of it in there. Well, how much did we get? How much of the 2 did we get into the 1/3? Well, look, if you look at the oval is broken up into 6 equal parts. But of those 6 equal parts, only one of those parts is shaded. So 1 out of 6 parts of that oval is shaded. So 1/6 should be the quotient of our 1/3 divided by 2. Let's verify that and see what happens. 1/3 divided by 2 is the same as 1/3 times 1/2, which is 1/6. That's the same answer. All right, let's look at another one. Let's suppose I wanted to do a problem where I have a mixed number. Let's put a mixed number in here and see how that works. Let's take 1 and 1/2 and divide it by 2 and 1/2. A mixed number divided by a mixed number. The process is exactly the same. The 1 and 1/2, that's our dividend. And the 2 and 1/2 is our divisor. Now, we need to figure out how long to make our number line, and we need to know how to split it up. Well, let's look at these two numbers here. We have 1 and 1/2. The next whole number that's larger than 1 and 1/2 is 2. If we look at the 2 1/2, the next whole number that's larger than 2 1/2 is 3. I'm going to make my number line the size of the larger of those numbers. So, I know my number line needs to be 3 units long. How many pieces does each one of those units need to be multiplied? Need to be broken into. So if we look at our denominators, we have a 2 and another 2. We multiply 2 times 2. 2 times 2 equals 4. So we need a number line that's 3 units long, where each unit is broken into 4 parts. Okay? So, 3 units long. We start at 0. Here's our 0. That's 1. Oops, I need to make that a little bit longer. So that's my first unit. That's 4 pieces. That's broken up into 4 parts. That's 2. That's 3. All right. Now, just like I did with the other problems, I'm going to mark each one of my numbers on my number line. I'm going to mark my divisor, and I'm going to mark my dividend. 1 1/2 is there. So let me break these up. Notice that each unit is broken into 4 parts. And here is my dividend, 1 1/2. Where's my divisor? My divisor is 2 1/2. So here's 2, and then I come over a half, so there's 2 1/2. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I did the last time. I'm going to draw an oval that's the size of my divisor. My oval starts at 0, and it's going to come all the way over here to 2 1/2. Now, let's look at the divisor. Here's my divisor. Let's shade everything that's less than my divisor. I'm sorry, my dividend. This is my dividend. Let's shade everything that's less than my dividend inside of this oval. Okay, how much of that oval is shaded? Well, let's see how many parts that oval has. It's broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? So that oval is broken up into 10 parts. How many of those parts are shaded? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6/10 of the oval shaded. Well, I can actually reduce that. 6/10 reduces. Each one of these can be divided by 2. So that's 3/5. So if I take my 1 1/2 and I divide it by 2 1/2, I should get 6/10 or 3/5. Let's verify this. Now, what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to do this just like the multiplication of fractions. Remember, mixed numbers have to be rewritten as improper fractions before you can do your multiplication and your division. So let's look at 1 1/2, and let's rewrite it as an improper fraction. 1 1/2 as an improper fraction. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3/2. And our 2 1/2 written as an improper fraction. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5/2. Now, let's see if this is actually equal to 3/5. I'll put a little question mark there. Well, how do we work this? 3/2 times 2/5. We have a couple of things that we could do here. We could actually multiply 3 times 2 and get 6, and 2 times 5 and get 10. Or we could actually reduce before we multiply 2 into itself once. So now we have 3/1 times 1/5, which is 3/5. Same answer. Okay, so the process is the same. It doesn't matter what numbers you have. All you need to do is figure out how big your number line needs to be and how to separate it, how to break it up, and where to label your dividend and your divisor, and then you just make your ovals. One last example. Let's do another one where we have a unit fraction. Now let's do something like this. Let's do a whole number divided by a unit fraction. Right? 3 divided by 1/5. Let's look at this 3 as 3/1. Now, before we even work this problem, let's think about what might happen. 3 is much larger than 1/5. So if I try to put that 3 into that 1/5, it should go in several times. So when I model this and I start drawing my ovals, I should have several ovals. So let's see how this works out. 3/1, so that's the whole number 3, and then we have 1/5, so the larger of those two numbers is the 3. So we need a number line that's 3 units long, and each unit needs to be broken into 1 times 5, or 5 pieces per unit. 5 pieces for each unit. So we start at 0. Here's my first unit that's broken into 5 pieces. Here's my second unit that's broken into 5 pieces. There's my third unit that's broken into 5 pieces. So here is my dividend at the end. And where's my divisor? My divisor, if I look at this first unit, 1/5 of this first unit is there. So now, I need to make ovals the size of my divisor. But I need to keep making those until I reach my dividend. So here's one oval. Here's another one. They all need to be the same size, the same length. That's 3 of them. That's 4. That's 5 of them. 6 of them. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's a lot of them. So let's shade that. That's 1, 4 over, oval, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, So hopefully, if this model is correct, if I take my 3 and divide it by 1/5, I should get 15. Well, let's see. Do that mathematically. That's 3 over 1 times 5 over 1 is 15 over 1. And what's 15 over 1 is just 15. So it's pretty simple. Make sure you know how long to make your number line. So once again, look at the larger of your fractions. You look at your dividend and your divisor. Look at the largest one. If it's a whole number, that's how many units you need. That's how long your number line needs to be. If they're both unit fractions, then your number line only needs to be 1 unit long. But you determine how many segments to break each unit up into by multiplying the denominators of your fractions. So hopefully this has helped you get a better understanding of how to model division of fractions using a number line.